bi-monthly meeting. Welcome our friends with in BTC Fiberville with us, keeping this with us. We appreciate the service you guys give us, and just want to welcome everybody here. As in every meeting, we begin with invocation and the pledge, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Frank Silver to lead us into invocation, and I'm going to ask that Wayne Clemens lead us in the pledge. Mr. Frank, may you stand.
That is about. Thank you, Lord, for this day and for all these attendees at this point. May we do your business as well as this commission's business. Be with all of our families that are in attendance tonight. Keep them all safe. And then especially help us to do your will as we proceed to do our business in this county. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I want to welcome our veterans here tonight. I see several in the audience. Always glad to see you guys and some new faces. Welcome everyone to the bi-monthly commission meeting. I don't see the governor here. I was going to introduce him special, but he's not here. But Chester Shell's here, so we'll move forward from that. So, okay, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Travis Fawcett. Chester Shell.
Yeah.
Brian Ruling.
Here.
Lane Lane.
Here.
James Freeland.
Here.
Brian Walker.
Here.
Doris Dotson. Here. Ed Nunley. Jeff Barger.
Here.
Paul Powell.
Here.
Michael Hudson.
Here.
June Dishman. Here. Frank Silver.
Here.
Susie Bostic. Here. Wayne Clemens.
Here.
Tommy Johnson.
Here.
Tom DeNiro.
Here.
Jeff Mackey.
Here.
We do have a quorum. I do want to digress just for a moment. One of our commissioners, Ed Nunley, has had some heart work done. We wish Ed a speedy recovery and Godspeed. So get well, Ed, and hurry back. Okay, in your packets, commissioners, you have two sets of minutes. One from the March 20th, 2003 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve said minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Mackey. Do I hear a second? I hear a second from Mr. Powell. Any questions, discussion, deletions, additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Minutes hereby passed. Also, from the May 4th and 5th retreat, you should have received minutes in your packet as well. I'll entertain a motion to approve those said minutes. I have a motion from Mr. Silver, a second from Mr. Powell. Any questions, deletions?
Let's have it again next year.
Have it again next year. We get a lot done during those times. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Those said minutes hereby pass as well. Okay, as part of the minutes, Madam Clerk, I want to make the trustees' report, the balance sheet, part of the minutes. Also, the cash flow analysis from the county exec's office. I'll get that to you later. Also, and I'm going to hand you the highway department list as soon as we get that report. So it's got a big packet that Lynn is here to go over detail by detail, I think, with us. Is Lynn still here? Did she run off? Well, she left when I told her that kiddingly earlier, so we'll get through it. Tommy, I think that needs you. So. Okay, moving over to the highway department. Mr. Johnson, would you care to give that report? I think Eric's come. Here comes Lynn now, so go ahead and start, Tommy.
Good evening. I think everybody can hear me from right here. The road committee met this evening and had three items that we discussed. One was to reinstate Teeter's Loop Road, which is a sprout. It's just sort of a small extension of a road. We had an affidavit from Mr. Ray Johnson from years past where the county had done maintenance on this road in years past. Somehow it had been omitted from the list. So the road committee is bringing that forward in form of a motion recommendation that be re-entered into the county road list.
Okay, you hear the motion from the road committee and the budget committee. Do I hear a second? Mr. Breland, thank you. Any questions, discussion relative to Tito's Loop? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is now added back to the county road list. Any other action relative to surplus or anything at this time?
That'll come out of
That'll
budget.
come out of budget, absolutely. Ms. Lynn, anything from the road committee on your behalf?
We have,
Now, Lynn,
some
you can't sit
surplus
there.
approval.
You just stand up.
We have some surplus on attachment D in there that we need to get surplus.
Okay,
And
that's going to
ours-
come through budget, so we'll take care of that
Okay.
with Mr. Barker.
Yeah, that's all we have.
That's all you have. Thank you very much. Okay, moving over to schools. Sarai, you coming up?
Good evening. I know you're hot like I am in here, right? Make us operate quicker. Just a very quick update, and then we'll talk about the financial statement that you should have received in your packet. First things first, May 30th is the start date for the renovation at the high school, so that's slated to begin, and I hope the project operates on time. We have a lot of work to get done there. If you saw online or were in person at Honors Night, locally, our community awarded almost $80,000 to our high school seniors. We live in such a supportive community. I certainly appreciate that, and I know their families do. Friday night was our commencement ceremony. We had 137 seniors graduate from Sequatchie County High School, who now will be alumni. We have had 99 kindergartners enroll for this year's incoming kindergarten class. We'll have another enrollment for another opportunity for families to enroll as kindergartners this Wednesday, so I anticipate that number to go up. That number always grows some because people didn't get the message, or they weren't in town, or they didn't realize it was time for registration. So we'll keep you all posted on the number of incoming kindergartners. Some really good news to share. You'll see some media release on this. But tomorrow I get the opportunity to be with two of our current juniors, almost seniors in high school, that are going to sign with Komatsu, the pre-apprentice program again. Last year we had one student, this year we have two more who qualify for that. It's a great opportunity for students. If you've been paying attention to the news, a lot of the headlines have been around the third grade English language arts testing. This year, state legislators passed that in order to be promoted to fourth grade, there were certain criteria that students had to make. One of those being they had to be proficient on the third grade TCAP test. That data came in late Friday afternoon after school was closed for the day, but I want to share that with you all. Of 137 students in Sequatchie County, these are students without exemptions who will be retesting this week. We started today. In fact, we had 9 students who scored below and 31 students scoring proficient. Now they'll retest. The state tells us they'll turn around test scores in 48 hours. We'll see what happens. Options for families then for the students to be promoted will either be, depending on what category they fit in, either summer school the month of June or summer school and tutoring in their fourth grade year. So this has really changed the way that we do business. It's a big challenge to a lot of districts. Financial statements. The report that we shared with you all was effective April 30th. You see that there. We're on task. We're on track. What questions might you have? I do want to point out that we have several payrolls still to run out of these dollars. We have the CFO in the room. If I can't answer the question, certainly she can.
Sales tax looks good.
Aren't we thankful for that?
Yes, we are. Any questions for Sarai?
How many days left?
A lot. 10 days still go. And we do operate summer school the entire month of June, so we really are there. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pierce. Okay, up next, I think the sheriff has grown a few inches. That's the sheriff, or Mike Tilley. Mike, anything for us relative to the sheriff's department? I asked Mike to sing the national anthem. He said he had laryngitis, but so we'll let him escape with no questions. Moving on over to, I see Mr. Barker back in the back. Anything from Ag, Mr. Barker? Okay. Anything, Tommy Hickey and Johnny Cordell here, anything from Veterans? I'm going to get to the main speaker here, but anything from you guys specifically?
On behalf of the Veterans Memorial Park Board, we just want to say thank you for all you do for the veterans and helping us and supporting our Memorial Park. Thank you.
We appreciate that, we really do. Jim, I'm going to have you come on up and follow that dissertation there from Mr. Hickey.
Okay, y'all have the numbers from on the handout. As you can see, we've gone from 352 to 389 in our system, and we've got 156 that are active as in cases we're working. These numbers from 2022 and 2023.
Yeah, you got it. It's a really good microphone now, so you don't have to get.
Oh, okay, so I don't have to be close? Gotcha. All right. So that's calendar year, not our fiscal year. You can see all of our numbers are better than they were. Big things on the achievements are, when I mentioned here, when I went through the records and looked for some previous dependency and indemnity compensation cases, what that is basically a pension that widows or widowers can be paid if their spouse's death is found to be service-connected, or if they were 100% disabled for a certain period of time. Being that the date of death, if the case was filed within a year, is the date of award. Some of those cases can be significant if a retro award is given, tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've got 3 responses from those 9 so far, and they're being worked. Also, Marion County just hired a new VSO. I've been working with him to get him up to speed. And the Purple Heart procedure, that was for a local widow, actually. And we've got a new procedure with the Army where hopefully those can be, that's the first case we've worked, hopefully those can be awarded while the veteran's alive if they were missed, because the Army's changed policies and sometimes makes things hard to implement. But with our access to records, we're able to get all the documentation that's needed in order to get those awarded. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the EMS. Anybody here with Puckett? Brian, anything from EMS? What about 911?
Still chugging.
Still chugging, okay, still answering calls.
Still answering calls.
Mr. Venero, what about audit committee?
Yeah, because of the time of year, typically we don't have an audit meeting because the auditors are doing basically their final interviews and sign-offs. So this particular meeting, we don't have one until we get a final report, which we anticipate maybe by July, but we did not have one this morning due to the fact that there's nothing to report on until we get that final audit prepared.
Thank you, sir. What about the chamber? Is Janice back from the left coast? I don't see her here yet.
We need money.
Do what?
We need money.
Okay. What about Ms. Pam with the Industrial Development Board? Any report from you?
Well, no, we're excited about the new development in the county and the city. And I've had a lot of people ask me what exactly does the Sequatchie County Industrial Development Board do. And we are the vehicle that the grants come through in order to allow the county to develop and so forth and so on. So that's what we do. And I'm very excited. I think we're going to have a great year. And right now I think we're breaking records on our growth. So very excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you. Let's see what's next. What about buildings and grounds? An update, Mr. Barker.
Budget after that?
Budget's after this. Come on up.
I'll just come on up. Yeah, the buildings and grounds did have a brief meeting this afternoon about 4:30, just kind of going over, as some of y'all may or may not notice as you're walking in, the courthouse got a new roof, got some new ornaments and other things. That's kind of phase one of this little project. Mr. Cartwright just kind of walked us around and gave us some updates on everything that's going on. And right now, we don't believe that we're going to go exceed the budget that we budgeted for, which was $225,000 or so. But there was some findings when they got to tearing into the roof. There was termite damage and some ceiling joists and things were replaced. Nothing over a 12-foot board, but it was like 58 ceiling joists that were replaced. So there's been a lot of work here on the courthouse, and hopefully in the next few weeks it'll wind up and we'll all have a courthouse that we're proud of. And that's pretty much it from the buildings and grounds.
Budget any extra money for air conditioning and courtroom up here?
Well, we'll get to that. There's supposed to be air conditioning that was budgeted for. I was wondering where it's at.
Yeah, let me speak, just give you a breath before budget, but we have new air conditioning systems installed. We're waiting on a couple of parts. Should be in by the next meeting. Actually, supposed to be in by later this week. I hope to have this done. I know there's court here Wednesday. I don't know that we'll be ready for court either. So anyway, we'll continue on with a fan and an open window possibly. So,
but yes, we do have a new air conditioner. It's just not operational yet. All right, you want to go into the budget now?
yes.
All right, Budget Committee also met this afternoon, and we went through several items. First, well, I'll just kind of go down the agenda. The first thing we'll do is kind of go through the transfers. We did have a couple of transfers to go through. The first transfer was in everybody's packet, so we'll go through it first, and then the other transfer will need to waive the 5-day rule. But we'll go through this first one and kind of go through it. This was a recommendation as a motion from the Budget Committee to transfer this dollar amount. It was Budget Code 101, transferring from 39,000 fund balance, sum total of $138,900, transferring that to 51,500,719 election office equipment. This was equipment, new voting machines purchased, and this is through a grant.
Now, I'll entertain, you hear the motion from the budget. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Johnson. Any questions? Now, this is money that we spend first and will be reimbursed before July the 1st. So any other questions or comments?
You stole my thunder. That's what this is, flow through money. We will be reimbursed for this, for purchasing these voting machines.
Madam Clerk, because it exceeds $5,000, roll call, please.
Chester Shell,
Yes, sir.
Brian Ruling,
Yes.
Blaine Lane,
Yes.
James Breland,
Yes.
Brian Walker,
Yes.
Joyce Dotson, yes. Jeff Barber,
Yes.
Paul Powell,
Yeah.
Michael Hudson,
Yes.
June Dishman,
Yes.
Frank Silver,
Yes.
Susie Bostic,
Yes.
Wayne Clemens,
Yes.
Tommy Johnson,
Yes.
Tom Nero,
Yes.
Jeff McAdoo.
Here, yes.
Okay, the
All right.
transfer hereby passes.
The next item, the next transfer that the Budget Committee had was not in our packets. It was a late arrival that came in today, so we will need to waive the 5-day rule before the commission.
Motion? I have a motion from Mr. Johnson, a second from Mr. Powell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, said 5-day rule is hereby waived. Chairman Barker.
All right, and this also came as a recommendation or a motion from the Budget Committee to transfer these items. It was transferring from Budget Code 101, transferring from 39,000 fund balance, sum total of $2,767.87, transferring that to 54,100,338 vehicle maintenance, the sheriff's vehicle maintenance, That's that same total, $2,767.87.
You've heard the motion. Do I hear a second? I have a second from Jimbo Breland. Any discussion or questions or comments? This is an insurance reimbursement from a wrecked vehicle or a damaged vehicle to be placed back in the maintenance line for the sheriff's department.
Yeah, this money has already been received from the insurance company.
These monies do not exceed $5,000, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, said transfer hereby passes. Mr. Barker.
All right. Kind of going down the list, the next item, and I'm not sure if the full commission needs this, we can vote on it, I guess. The sheriff credit card request, the budget committee recommended that the sheriff have his own credit card, and it was passed through the budget committee, and it can come as a motion from the budget.
You've heard the motion. Do I hear a second? I have a second from Mr. Silver. Any discussion? Now, previous sheriffs have requested their own credit card. That's been historically what's happened. Our past sheriff, Sheriff Swanner, did not. He wanted to use the county executive's credit card. So, but this sheriff has. This is not new money. It just gives him flexibility in acquiring rooms, training, supplies, that sort of thing. So. That's kind of the explanation. We have a motion and a second because it will exceed $5,000. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Chester Shell.
Yes.
Brian Ruling.
Yes.
Blaine Lane.
Yes.
James Freeland.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Joyce Dotson.
Yes.
Jeff Barker.
Yes.
Paul Powell.
Yes.
Michael Hudson.
Yes.
June Dishman.
Yes.
Frank Silver.
Yes.
Susie Bostic.
Yes.
Wayne Clemens.
Yes.
Tommy Johnson.
Yes.
Tom Nero.
Yes.
And Jeff Mackey.
Yes.
Okay, motion hereby passes. Chairman Barker.
All right, the next item that the budget committee considered, and this actually came out of the road committee, and that was the county highway department has 3 items. It's in attachment D. It should be in your package for surplus equipment. And that was 2019 New Holland tractor, 1999 New Holland, and 2017 Chevrolet 3500 service truck. And this was a motion from the road committee and also a motion from the budget committee to surplus these items.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? Any questions for Lynn? Hearing none, because this could exceed 5,000. Madam Clerk, please roll call.
Chester Shell.
Yes.
Brian Ruling.
Yes.
Blaine Lane.
Yes.
James Freeland.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Joyce Dotson.
Yes.
Jeff Barker.
Yes.
Paul Powell.
Yes.
Michael Hudson.
Yes.
June Dishman.
Yes.
Frank Silver.
Yes.
Susie Bostic.
Yes.
Wayne Clemens.
Yes.
Tommy Johnson.
Yes.
Tom Nero.
Yes.
And Jeff Mackey.
Yes.
Okay, the motion hereby passes. Mr. Barker.
All right, a couple of other items that the budget committee had worked on was there was bids opening a few days ago for the first one was the sheriff's or the Justice Center HVAC bid award. There had been RFQ sent out. There was 2 bids that came back. One was Mountain City, one was CHC Mechanical Contractors. The budget committee pushed forth a motion to recommended the Mountain City bid, which was $60,419. For record, the CHC Contractors was $102,822.
You've heard the motion for Mountain City from the Budget Committee. Do I hear a second? I have a second from Mr. Ruling. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chester Shell.
Yes.
Brian Ruling.
Yes.
Blaine Lane.
Yes.
James Freeland.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Joyce Dotson.
Yes.
Jeff Barger,
Yes.
Paul Powell,
Yes.
Michael Hudson,
Yes.
Judy Dishman,
Yes.
Frank Silver,
Yes.
Susie Bostic,
Yes.
Wayne Clemens,
Yes.
Tommy Johnson,
Yes.
Tom Nero,
Yes.
and Jeff Mackey.
Yes.
Okay, bid is hereby awarded to Mountain City. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Barber.
The next bid, the ballpark committee had open bids on May the 8th, I think it was. There was 2 bids received for, this is a 3-year contract to do maintenance at the Griswold Park. The 2 bids were Ponderosa Company and Michael Fred Summers. The recommendation from the budget committee was that we go with the Ponderosa Company, and that bid was a total of $30,925 a year for the contract total of $92,925 for 3 years.
You've heard the motion from the Budget Committee. Do I hear a second? Have a second from Mr. Powell. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Comments?
is this a local company? Is this a local?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, they're
It's
currently
local.
doing the bids now, or doing the service now?
Yeah, they're the current ones doing it right now.
Thank you.
And for the record, the other bid, the one we suggested was $30,925 a year. The other bid that came in was $32,000. So that's how close the 2 bids were.
Any other question? These were sealed bids. We've got several signatures on when they came in, so just a point of record. So, no further questions. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Chester Shell. Brian Ruling,
Yes.
Blaine Lane,
Yes.
James Freeland,
Yes.
Brian Walker,
Yes.
Joyce Dotson,
Yes.
Jeff Barger,
Yes.
Paul Powell,
Yes.
Michael Hudson,
Yes.
June Dishman,
Yes.
Frank Silver,
Yes.
Susie Bostic,
Yes.
Wayne Clemens,
Yes.
Tommy Johnson,
Yes.
Tom Nero,
Chairman, due to any perceived or real conflict that one may think I have because my wife rents her commercial building to Ponderosa, I will abstain.
Noted. Mr. Venero.
Jeff Mackey.
Can I abstain if I don't like him?
Yes.
Well, then, how-
Okay, motion and bid is hereby awarded to Ponderosa. Mr. Barber.
All right, there was no other actions that was taken out of the budget committee. However, the budget committee did have a couple more open discussions, and there was a brief discussion on resolution 786, which will come up later in our regular meeting. Also, Mr. Cartwright gave us a little bit of an update on the Erlanger MOU and letter of intent update. They are working through some of that and going through the legalese on the letter of intent with Erlanger. And he also gave us a little update from the buildings and grounds on the courthouse roof and the windows. And then we kind of went through some more of the expenditure side of the general fund 101, solid waste, and a little bit of the drug fund. And that's what the budget committee covered.
Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Thanks.
While we're on the MOU, Counselor Mitchell, any updates on the MOU? I know I've gotten a draft from you and we've kind of conferred, but we're kind of waiting on the LOI from Erlanger to further collaborate with those guys. Am I accurate in that statement?
That is correct. Yes, nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you very much, Counselor. Okay, any other committees that need to report? Seeing or hearing none, we'll move forward into new business. In your packets, Commissioners, you should have received a revised budget planning schedule. Sherry and I got together and needed to revise. We will not get the certified rate from the state of Tennessee to offset any increases in valuation that many of us have received. But our job is to adopt that certified rate, which offsets increases in your valuation on your property. So we're still waiting on that number. Therefore, we had to adjust our meeting schedule. So it's funny, the left hand at the state, the comptroller per se, wants the budget in July 1, Coach. But then the other hand, they don't want to give us the certified rate till July 1, Coach. So we can't work all that out. So, but we are moving forward and doing the best we can do. Going over the expenses, we will go over the revenues as soon as we have those numbers. So we'll be bringing those forward. So in your packets, I would entertain a motion to approve the new budget activity meeting schedule. Do I hear a motion? Have a motion from Mr. Clemens. Do I hear a second? Have a second from Mr. Walker. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion of the revised schedule hereby passes. Thank you for that. Okay, up next in your package, you should have, this is something we've been waiting on, an agreement with the distribution of local option sales tax with the city. Now, I have, Mayor Huth may walk in at any minute to answer any questions, but I'll do my best, and several of us will, to answer these. Now, let me set the stage here. Anything collected in the city of Dunlap, the only partner they have to share sales tax with by law is the school system. They get 50% of that. We've been through this. We had a 10-year agreement with Mayor Land when he was in office. That agreement expired. Now, for the record, they do not have to give us 1 red cent sharing revenues. Basically, this agreement drops our percentage from 13.5% down to 7% this first year. And the Excel spreadsheet, this is a pro forma, certainly will show you that we're going to lose about $218,000 in proposed revenue that we got last year. We know it will be more than that because we're setting lots of records in the collection of sales tax. So we know that number is going to be greater than that. But what you have is an agreement. If we don't vote for it, we get nothing. If you do vote for it, we get 7% of the sales tax collected inside the city limits of Dunlap. Now that staggers down. You can read the agreement. It staggers down to 2% over a 5-year period. Now, I will entertain a motion before we discuss and answer questions to approve the agreement for distribution of local option sales tax. I have a motion from Miss Susie Bostic and a second from J. Mack.
Can I ask the county attorney a question?
Hold on just a minute. We have a motion and a second. Now, questions. Mr. Shell for the county attorney.
County attorney, on these sales tax, is it feasible that we can do this on a sales tax referendum?
Well, you were probably not on here about 10 years ago, but I think at that point in time, the city came back and it expired and we were going to get nothing. And I believe we negotiated the contract to get the 13.5%. My recollection, and several of you that were on here, it was pretty contentious with the city, and it was what we ended up compromising with because we were going to lose significant revenue. We do not have to do this. They do not have to do this. I think they are doing this because they are county residents too, and the loss of revenue would be significant to the county. So I have not been involved in the talks. I guess I should stand up too, and then stand up. Although she's going to get all over me, the life's not fair if I don't stand up, right? So I think, I've not been involved in the talks between the two mayors, but I think this is where they have kind of landed, the city's kind of landed. And Keith can address more of their meetings. You can certainly go back and try to renegotiate, but it's expiring, and I think this is what they said the deal is, so.
Well, I was more or less wanting to make sure that we do, as commissioners, we do the right thing and not be in violation of no laws on TCA code.
Well, we have an agreement currently, and the agreement has been 13.5% that's coming into the county, and that agreement was for 10 years. I think that's what the city was willing to do at the time. So you can do this agreement. They could do more. They could do less. This is where they said they're going to do. So.
thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
It allowed me, I had doubts.
I understand.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Venero?
Chairman, I would just say, as a collective body, it's my opinion, absolutely need to approve this. If you read the language, and as our county attorney has stated, this is prepared by their legislative body. It basically says, if we don't agree, that there is no deal. I think as we vote, we have to know that, but also we have to be cognizant that we are taking a $200,000 hit. That shouldn't affect the vote on this, but it's something we need to talk about in budget. When we prepare our final budget, we're going to have a $200,000 plus revenue shortfall, possibly. And this does it does definitely go from 7 to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2. The optimistic side of me says, at the end of that 2028, it doesn't say 0. It's open again. Maybe we can say something at that point to negotiate. But I think general test, we have 0 legs, 0 standing, 0 legal argument to say we want more, correct?
And I think that's kind of where we were 10 years ago. I mean, it was pretty touch and go there with Mayor Land, and we were able to work it out, but I remember it was not a pretty day, and we were looking at, tax increases and some things like that. So, and this is a pro forma. Obviously, if we shop local, it increases, we get more money. So I think that helps everyone, and that, when we talk about tourism and shopping local, that's what we look at.
Mr. Johnson?
So just to add on, Commissioner Sherrill, you asked about whether or not it was legal.
Yes.
Third paragraph says, whereas pursuant to Tennessee Code CC76-712, the city may by contract with the county provide an alternative distribution of non-school portion revenue. So that answers your question. It is legal and it's covered in the Tennessee Code.
Yeah, and I can read that.
So,
I can read that.
but it's,
I didn't
no.
say that in the code.
I can read that code
I
section
didn't
to
read
you.
that code.
Give me just a
No,
second, I can
thank
read
you.
it to you.
Yeah, while we're doing that, there's a lot of people in this room that know that this agreement goes back decades. I see Mr. Cordell back there and Sherry and some of these folks that it goes back 30 years or so, where the city gave our school system monies when they were building a school, and they allowed that extra, I think 22%, Coach, if I'm remembering correctly. But they allowed this to help us with our then MOE issues that we had. The school system allowed us to stagger off that obligation that we had back then, and we're still appreciative of that. So there's a lot of history with this, but Counselor?
Okay, so it goes in sections, so bear with me. The tax levied by a county under this part, and this part is called a sales and use tax, shall be expended and dispersed in the same manner as the county property tax for school purposes expended and distributed, and the other 1/2 as follows. And it talks about A, B, and then C is, however, a county and city or town may by contract provide for other distributions of the other half not allocated to school purpose. So the school gets half. Then the city and county have to contract for the other half. But it's city sales tax that we're talking about. So the city is saying they're a part of the sales tax. They're willing to contract with us under this document. Now the school's going to get half of that tax. And then the city and county are contracting what happens with the city's other half. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and so the city's saying this is what we're willing to give you. The rest of it is going to be used for the city.
Thank you very much.
Now, in all fairness, and let me state this for the record, and someone who does not know, any sales tax collected in the county, we do not share 1 penny with the city of Dunlap. So we're appreciative of this agreement, following up what Mr. Venero said. We do, though, split, or we give the school the first 50%. So that's TCA law as well. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question. It may be
Yes, Mike.
better suited for Clint, I'm not sure, but I just want to make sure, I understand we're taking a hit, but the school system is going to get the same amount of money they got last year.
Correct. By law.
Okay. Now, do they get a portion of the county's sales tax?
Yes.
They get 50%.
And we're going to keep that the same as we.
That's by law,
That's by
yes.
law.
Thank you.
And I know you know that, you're just for transparency. I know, Michael, so I got
Thank
you.
you.
Good question.
It's, Just to clarify, it's by law, the school system gets 50% of the sales tax,
Thank you.
regardless whether it's in the city or in the county.
Just as a side comment, be proud you've only got one city in the county of Sequatchie. Because if we had more than one city, then this question might not even come up.
Yeah. Yeah, Marion and Grundy wish they were in our position, so certainly.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? If not, Madam Clerk, roll call on this said agreement.
Chester Shell,
Yes.
Ron Rubin,
Yes.
Lane Lane,
Yes.
James Freeland,
Yes.
Brian Walker,
Yes.
Joel Dotson. Yes. Jeff Barker,
Yes.
Paul Powell,
Yes.
Michael Hudson,
Yes.
June Dishman, Frank Silver,
Yes.
Susie Bostic. Yes. Wayne Clemens,
Yes.
Tommy Johnson,
Yes.
Tom De Niro,
Yes.
and Jeff Mackey.
Yes.
Okay, the agreement hereby passes. That's good to get out of the way. In your packet next is Resolution 785. This is to authorize a $2 filing fee for documents filed electronically in the Register of Deeds office here in Sequatchie County. This is in your packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Powell.
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Barker. Any questions?
Is that per sheet or per unit?
It's per filing,
Okay, okay.
per filing,
Okay, okay.
per filing. Any other questions? We don't think this number will exceed $5,000, but let's roll call it anyway, Madam Clerk.
Chester Shell,
Yes.
Brian Rubin,
Yes.
Lane Lane,
Yes.
James Freeland,
Yes.
Brian Walker,
Yes.
Joel Dotson, Jeff Barker,
Yes.
Paul Powell,
Yes.
Michael Hudson,
Yes.
June Dishman, Frank Silver,
Yes.
Susie Bostic, Wayne Clemens,
Yes.
Tommy Johnson,
Yes.
Tom De Niro,
Yes.
Jeff Mackey.
Yes.
All right, Resolution 785 hereby passes. Okay, before we get into Resolution 786, just a comment or two. In your packets, this resolution was not in your packets. It's because we've been working on it all weekend and even this morning. We've tweaked this thing several times. We had a good retreat. We've spent the last 2 years of planning for this resolution vote tonight. And first, I'm going to entertain a motion to waive the 5-day rule on Resolution 786. Have a motion from Mr. Powell. Have a second from Mr. Breland. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the 5-day rule is hereby moved. I'm going to ask that Mr. Tommy Johnson come forward. This resolution is so important with some of the key points that I want everyone to be clear on how this rolls out. So, Mr. Johnson.
Resolution 786-2023. Resolution authorizing $1,500,000 appropriation to the Industrial Development Board of the County of Sequatchie County, Tennessee for the acquisition and development of the Carlisle Business Park. Whereas Sequatchie County supports economic development and wants to encourage the investment of private capital and the creation of jobs. And whereas Sequatchie County has created the Industrial Development Board of the County of Sequatchie County, Tennessee for the purpose of developing sites and facilities for economic development purposes. And whereas the IDB has the opportunity to acquire 70+ acres strategically located at the intersection of US Highway 111 and 127, branded as the Carlisle Business Park. And whereas independent site consultants for the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development has evaluated this property as prime property for mixed-use development, including industrial, commercial, and retail. And whereas the IDB desires to enter into a public-private partnership for the acquisition and development of this property. Therefore, The Sequatchie County Commission approves the appropriation and disbursement of up to $1,500,000 to the IDB for the purpose. And furthermore, the Sequatchie County Commission authorizes the county executive to make any transactions necessary to disperse up to $1,500,000 to the IDB and enter into any and all agreements necessary to facilitate the ultimate acquisition and development of the Carlisle Business Park, including the disbursement of up to 20% of these funds as earnest down payments on the property prior to closing by the IDB. And furthermore, the Sequatchie County Commission does hereby declare that any funds transferred to the Sequatchie County IDB Board of Sequatchie County, Tennessee, pursuant to this resolution shall be returned to Sequatchie County, Tennessee, in the event that the transaction of the acquisition of the Carlisle Business Park fails to be consummated. Now, wherefore, past this 22nd day of May 2023, the Sequatchie County Board of Commissioners meeting in session, the economic welfare of county residents depending on it for future prosperity.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. If you would just stay in place just for a moment. What we're going to do first, following Robert's Rules of Order, we're going to get a motion and a second on this. Then we're going to discuss a little bit further. I'm going to have counsel come up and give her comments on some of the language in this resolution. But I'll entertain a motion, and thank you, Mr. Clemens, for the motion. Do I hear a second? I have a second for Mr. Venero. We have a motion and a second. Jennifer, would you come up and just expound on some of the language that was changed at the last moment, and anything else you want to speak on?
Well, County Executive Cartwright and I met this morning, and one thing he wanted to make sure of is that in the event that we don't need all of the funds, if we get a private partner that puts in some funds or all funds, and it's not any county funds that are required, then whatever funding goes to the IDB that's county that is not used will come back. Or if for some reason the county doesn't, if this doesn't follow through for some reason, they will come back. So, and that will be part of the agreement between Sequatchie County and the IDB that County Executive Cartwright will do and sign to ensure that the funds are protected, and the IDB will make sure of that also. Obviously, we don't know at this point. There will be some things sent out, and we'll find out what interest we have, how much funding they have, and all of those things. And the IDB will be the one that actually purchases the property. It will go into the IDB's name, and Beth Jones and Miller Martin are working with the IDB and represent the IDB to ensure that it's taken care of and everything is done correctly to make sure that this RFP is taken care of. So my office will be assisting the IDB with some title work and assisting Beth Jones' organization with that. But everything will be done through the IDB, and Miller Martin represents the IDB. Right.
Any further questions? Mr. Shell.
Yes, you know, we talk about the money left over out of the acquisition stuff that goes back to the county general fund or one fund. Now, why have we got the IDB board of members? Now, why can't they keep the money for investment in future development? Why do we have to mistrust them? There's what, 6 or 8 people on that board and chairman, treasury. They should be accountable for what the excess is to build their farm up. If we keep tearing them down, we'll never get took off in industrial.
Well,
so I don't think it's a matter of mistrust by any means. Mr. Venero and I both, we had the same idea this morning, and history tells us that, you know, if you just put money into it and something doesn't come to fruition, that money just sits there. And so the whole thought process was, because part of this is ARP. I'll get that right before the night's over. Part of this money is ARP money, and part of it is our money, tax dollars. So we wanted to protect that, and that's why we added language with council's help earlier this morning that we protect the county.
But I thought when we chose that board to start with, that we chose people like attorneys, business people, that we look forward to having trust in them, to have enough to work with, to go out and promote Dunlap. as an industrial?
This is not a trust issue. This is just protecting us. Mr. Monero.
I personally trust every single member of that IDB board. This isn't about personalities, this is about individuals. Part of the reason you have a return, ARP monies have to be used in a certain way. If this doesn't go through, we can't just leave the money there. We've got that ARP money. That's got to come back and be used appropriately.
Okay.
There's a list of things we can use it for. So that's the number one reason, I think, Chester, why we have that in there. It has absolutely nothing to do with the port. In fact, as a body, which you're a part of, we pushed for a county-driven IDB board, and we have it. We're going to use it. We have used it. But I think that's the answer to your question, part of the money. And what's interesting about this is the second year at our retreat that this became the #1 priority. In fact, this year, we had 16-0 support for this as our #1 priority in the county. We got to find a way to do it. This is an ongoing thing that's been going on, and what this resolution does moves the process forward. And finally, I think, Chester, your concern is the IDB board is stepping in its position now. We're at that time where we need to get ready if a deal comes in. And as Jennifer said, and Keith, and I think this whole commission holds out for, we might get a person that comes in and wants the whole thing to themselves. Take it. We don't have to contribute anything. That's a possibility. But we have to be prepared, and we already voted on this prior to be prepared to move forward on those contracts if and when they come calling for pay. So this is just continuing our setup for that process, but gives us an out. God forbid it doesn't work the way we have it on.
For example, if she went out, her or him, I'll just say they, went out and, tried to recoup some kind of industrial that give jobs in town, and how are they going to operate on monies, or am I not?
We're the only people that can give them money. The IDB has $0. So this is giving, if we don't do this, they can't do anything. They can't, if we don't.
And by resolution, we give them $25,000 a year to operate on now.
Okay.
Whether they're doing a project or not, they get that by resolution year in and year out.
Well, I sort of want it to be a strong bill to work in. It's not a complaint, it's just, I just don't understand how the fiscal board works.
It's, the money is, the real reason we have that in there is because we have to look at this as a restricted fund. If it falls through, they can't use it, so it's dead money. So we have to get it back and be able to use it under a different ARP project.
Right, because ARP has that.
In ARP, I understand.
Yes.
We have
Right,
the
good question.
We have the opportunity here to build something to secure future generations in this community. I mean, what we're, the project we're putting forth, we've been given a lot of this money, just came out of the heavens as far as we're concerned from the government and, from the federal government as far as rescue plans. And now we have an opportunity to use that to build a future for our county. So that's what we're using that for. But to answer the question, if those things fall through, we need to pull that money back to be able to spend it on a project of some other nature before that money expires. Because I think there is an expiration on that money, is there not?
There is, 2024.
So we got till next year to do something with it.
Well, another question. On the ARC money, I'll be back.
No problem.
But anyhow, we can, if it is excess money, we can use it for our infrastructure.
Yeah, and we have done that.
Okay,
We have done some of that.
That's why I say, that's why I was thinking, it may be excess that we need.
Yeah, and let me, and in my address to the commission, I'll go over the TDEC non-funded water money that I've got some news on, so we'll cover that. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Powell.
To answer Mr. Shell's question, separable plaque, we went and voted on each one of these IBD board members. We didn't go out here and pick out the low life in the community, put them on this project. They know the law, if they don't understand it, they know how to go ask somebody about it to make it right, because we won't drive this bus to the full length of the tour. And when we come out on the other side, we can look back at them and say, thank you.
Well said.
That's it.
Any other comments or questions?
You speak of private investment, do we have any idea?
Here's the way, Michael, it will work. This resolution gives us authority. We have an RFP, and I'll provide that to you at your request, that's ready to go out to several developers that have been asking. We have a verbal on someone willing to put up half the acquisition money. Of course, but we have to make this resolution, put it in force first. Now, we're hoping that to outbid someone else, somebody comes up and says, I'll do it all. But the advantage for that developer, because it's in the Industrial Development Board's name, it's tax-free for that 5 years to give them a leg up. Now, let's say, for instance, and I'm updating you pretty quickly here, but if someone comes in, say a food store, and they need 10 acres of the 60 or 70 acres that we're looking at, that developer would request from the Industrial Development Board to do a partial release on that property. Now, at that time, when they did that and procured their financing, immediately that property would be taxed. So the return on investment looks to be, once things are in place, and we're looking at just a $60 million investment, which we think is going to be $160 million, but projections low, a 5-year return on asset. And we have pro formas to show that. So we're excited about the opportunity, and I've made this statement several times. It'll be a generational harvest of tax base for our county. And the biggest thing for me is, it's not about control. You're not going to stop growth. Nobody in this room is going to stop growth. We're not a police state yet. As long as the flag's still flying, people can sell property, move in, sell, buy, whatever they need to do. The only thing we can try to do as a collective body is manage our growth. So this is part of managing. We've got so much traffic downtown, down toward the school system. If we can keep them out toward the 111 corridor, it's going to benefit everyone. TDOT will be a player. TDEC will be a player. We've got things lined up. We've been working on this project. I said 2 years hard, but we've really been looking at this about 4 or 5 years. And that specific property that we're looking at is according to private studies in economic development, it's really the front door to our valley. We want to control what that looks like. We want to make it enticing for someone who's driving by and says, I want to pull off there and eat. I want to pull off there and shop. I want to get gas there. This is a beautiful place. Look, welcome, Mayor Huth. You can take over this conversation anytime. But what I'm saying is, it needs to look lovely, at least intriguing, enticing. We have a chance to set the stage for what that's going to look like. That's my spiel.
And I'm sure there's, I'm sure there's more. I'm sure you guys know. I know how it works. Industries are recruited in secret a lot of times for their reasons. The problem comes in is we hold a public office, so that's where the conflict goes in, and it's hard to go out and justify spending the money when you can't tell the voters what's going on.
Well, we have appointed, an industrial development board that we're counting on, because we're trusting them with this money to make the right call, to create the master plan on what goes there. Now, they're going to have insight from the commissioners, but we do this, we take this out of the county legislative body's name to keep from being offered kickbacks or things like that. That's the reason the vehicle of the Industrial Development Board is so imperative in situations in small town America. It takes the power away from the county executive, the city mayor. This will be in private tax-paying citizens that are not elected but appointed by you, the county legislative body.
Do we know an estimate on about what it's going to cost to develop it? Is the county going to have to do that?
It depends on what the master plan says. We do not have any of those numbers. We know we know some folks that are knocking at the door, but it's really not up to this body to handle that. That's the reason.
Get the land first. And we discussed at the retreat, Joan specifically said, those development costs would be part of any operating lease agreement that ID board makes. And that's a lot of constituents from our district here tonight. And Michael brought up the point, we work for the people. That's why, as commissioners, we want input about what we want on that development. And that's the beauty of it. That's if we acquire it this way, we have an input on what that agreement's gonna be. If we don't acquire that property, someone, a private investor could buy it and could put whatever the heck they want there, and we have to, that's what we get. So that to me is the underlying principle of that, and why we're trying to secure that right to have a say. Otherwise, that 111 property, which is the prime piece of property in here, in the fourth growing highest county in Tennessee, will be taken from under our feet, in my opinion.
Any other comments?
I would like to say that Mr. Monero is exactly right. If we do not go ahead and do this, then we will not have the opportunity to maximize the sales tax, and we won't have the opportunity to say, well, we don't want you in here because that's not what Sequatchie County wants to look like. So that's the bottom line. And, you know, everything is accounted for to the penny. So we did our first deal on our industrial building, and it was great. So we can do this, and we're all coming from different backgrounds to where we have all kind of different thoughts and processes, and I'm 100% for it.
Mr. Chairman, call for the vote.
Call for the question. Madam Clerk, roll call on Resolution 786.
Chester Hill.
No.
Brian Ruling.
Yes.
I lost my place. Wayne Lane.
Yes.
James Freeland.
Yes.
Brian Walker.
Yes.
Joyce Dotson.
Yes.
Jeff Barger.
Yes.
Paul Powell.
Yes.
Michael Hudson.
No.
June Dishman.
Yes.
Frank Silver.
Yes.
Susie Bostic.
Yes.
Wayne Clemmons.
Yes.
Tommy Johnson.
Yes.
Tom Monero.
Yes.
Jeff Mackey.
Yes.
Okay, we have, the motion passes, Resolution 786 hereby passes. Okay, up next is the time for the county executive to address the commission. I've got a few things tonight, then we will cover the notaries and that sort of thing. Okay, first, let me say this. Our small town America runs on volunteers. I've got an interesting email. I just wanted to share a few things. A person who volunteers undertakes or expresses a willingness to undertake a service such as one who enters into the military service voluntarily, one who renders a service or takes part in a transaction while having no legal concern or interest. A volunteer is one who receives a conveyance or transfer of property without giving any monies or consideration to. A volunteer is not paid for being a volunteer. A volunteer I know has missed many meals at his family dinner table with his children. The volunteer I know has missed birthday parties, ball games, and other family events so he could simply volunteer. The volunteer I know has left his family in the middle of a storm to protect someone else's family because their house was struck by lightning. The volunteer I know lost countless hours of sleep being out on calls all hours of the night, while also maintaining a full-time employment job somewhere else. The volunteer I know undertook a volunteer service 28 years ago for no other reason but to help his community for no pay. After reflecting on some of these words, I wanted to put out a help wanted sign for volunteers, looking for some great team members willing to work flexible hours. Be ready at a moment's notice. Sacrifice your life. Ready to work in rain, sleet, or snow, or sunshine. Holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, and family events, ball games. You may have to cancel to go to work without pay. Hours are depending on when the call arises. No off days unless no one calls. This sounds like a job for you, doesn't it? Salary starts at 0. Raises given at 0. All welcome to volunteer. So the next time you see volunteers requested, start the line and start to volunteer. That's my spiel. Madam Clerk, what do we have on the bill of fare for notaries? One other announcement I've got, but I'm going to let you do the notaries first.
Okay. Well, we have a pretty good bad guy right here, Sean A. Booth, is to be approved. Desiree Lynn Dent, Vicky L. Frizzell, Julia Ann Johnson, Angela Christian Cope, Dallas LeBron Robertson, Suzanne Ray Smith, and Jimmy M. Worley. And Mr. Sean's a pretty good guy, I have to say.
What is the pleasure of this legislative body?
No move.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Brewer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Bonero, please recognize the pizza man tonight.
Yes, I want to say something about person in our audience. We talked, this is before, we didn't know what was going to happen tonight. We had our budget meeting, we talk about county raises, we talk about county employees, we talk about volunteerism. I have a neighbor, constituent, a co-worker, and a friend, Sean Booth, who bought us pizzas tonight at this commission, and he is to be commended for that. We thank you, Sean. He comes to these meetings, he cares, he peppers me, peppers Keith, he's involved. But for someone just to do that out of nothing, without knowing anybody probably but me and Mr. Mackey, I wanted to thank him for that personally on behalf of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. One other announcement. We will end with this. Got an email today. Mr. Cartwright, good day to you, sir, and the remaining sitting commissioners. I am addressing this letter of resignation to you, the commissioners, and most importantly, the citizens of Sequatchie County. Without going into an extremely long email, I believe the constituents of District 1 will be better served by a replacement commissioner. With the current time restraints that I am under with the constant growth of my new business, I am to say the least pressed for, at least say I'm the least pressed for time, since time is of the essence, and I cannot regularly attend meetings. I am officially submitting my resignation as County Commissioner in District 1 effective June 30. This is signed by Travis Fawcett. We will take measures. I've already met with Mr. Shell. He is the City Commissioner at District 1. We'll take this up in July. We have 120 days, I believe, Council, after June 30th to appoint someone. That's done in 3 ways. Mr. Shell, the City Commissioner, will make a nomination, or another commissioner can make nomination, or someone from the 1st District from the audience can make nomination. The only thing, when that happens, they have to have a commissioner to second that motion. So that will be coming forward. Did I leave anything out?
Yeah, you're right.
All right. We've done it a time or two. So Mr. Fawcett did a splendid job and what he did. He's a businessman. We've had him on the IDB board. He was elected commissioner, highly talented. We're going to miss his services. But he is a productive citizen of our county, and we wish him well. But I wanted to make that announcement, and that will be coming forward in July. So just to let you guys know. So any other announcements? Yes, Miss Joyce.
I just got to get this off my chest. I'm sorry, this may not be the place to do it. But at our retreat, we saw for 2 days this resolution that we just voted on. And Chester, I don't know what you read off yourself, because you were so turned around and you were for this. And I'm not sure what happened. And Mr. Michael, I am so sorry that you weren't there, because you missed it. And you weren't the only one who wasn't. And this is for generations to come. This is not about us. We may not live to see this. I doubt I will, because I'm going to go home and take a blood pressure. But I don't understand. I mean, it's not about us. It's just about the future. And I'm sorry that, you know, if you missed out on it, because we beat it to death. We just talked and talked and talked. And you know, this is not about us. This is about the future.
Well, I can speak to me. I was working.
So many people.
Well, let me,
people had to make the effort to do that.
let me give you a virtue of my understanding. Here's when our infrastructure is falling apart, and we are in the red in the budgets. And you know, if you can't afford something, Joyce, sometimes you gotta wait until you can, Now, we just don't jump up because we can decide we want something.
No, I don't
You're
know.
talking about taxpayers' money, ma'am, you ain't talking about your money.
Did you not support this at the retreat?
I did.
Okay.
But when I looked at the
So then what has
infrastructure-
changed?
Okay, when the sheriff department gave their budget, it turned out they $700-something thousand in the red. And here's another $800-something thousand in the red on Mountain. Now, you think that I'm gonna sit back and let our infrastructure fall to the bottom because you want something else? No. Or anybody else? You know,
Well,
no.
Chester, we gotta spend the ERP funds on something, and I would rather spend those funds that will
Well,
produce
let's get
dividends for the
infrastructure.
generations to
We
come.
got-
George, thank you for your help tonight, I'm leaving.
Well, good,
Motion to
listen,
adjourn. Motion to leave.
City water.
Let's get back on. Point taken, you guys can take this outside. Let me make this announcement, please, Chester. This is for the infrastructure. We just got notice that the TDEC non-competitive $4 million allocated to our county has just been released. So they've been approved. The water projects that we've never gotten that money will go directly to the water utility districts.
That's where my picture was at. There's people in my district that's carrying water to the babies. And you know, and I look hard on that stuff. And if I know this $4 million come inside, it would have been a different decision.
Well, it's been coming in since ARP.
You never told me about one.
Motion to adjourn.
It was done.
I said.
We stand adjourned.
All in favor, hand up.